So we're definitely in a bit of a downturn in the market, but doesn't seem to be, the trade desk seems to be immune to that. Why do you think your company's earnings were high where everybody else blew theirs?
I think it's a bunch of factors, and if I had a crystal ball, I obviously would be investing and not working at the trade desk, and I'd be picking winners exclusively. But it's a bunch of factors. The most important one is that as advertisers start to batten the hatches, the places that they're looking to cut from are the places where they've traditionally over-indexed or spent a lot, and the places they're looking to drive more spend into would be places where they see that they're getting performance and a lot of sort of efficiency. So that's one part of it. The other part of it is that for the past 10 years, you've really seen a duopoly in the advertising ecosystem, at least on the digital side, where you've got Google runs search and you've got Facebook runs social, or buys competitors. And when there's now Apple joining the party, and Amazon joining the party, and now TikTok as an upstart joining the party, those are just three, but there's hundreds of people that are entering this space, competing for attention. And so as a result, you're seeing some headwinds that are probably a little bit stronger in those places where there just wasn't any competition before. It's not necessarily that Google's in a tight spot and so the market's in a tight spot. It's that Google's finally competing, and that's actually healthy for the economy.
You talk about competition on the other end of things, particularly in the CTV and streaming space. There seems to be a ton of competition as well. We have all the different companies that launch their streaming services. How does that affect the market and affect things?
It makes it really, really hard and challenging for advertisers. You've got tons of different places that people are going to find different content. They might be navigating from one app to another app, from one channel to another channel. That's complicated, but it's also really expensive to produce content. We found that out last year. There were dozens and dozens of, well, let's say maybe a half dozen streaming plus partnerships that launched, or plus platforms that launched. And then this year, we've already seen a merger close with Warner Discovery, so I expect that we'll start to see more consolidation, especially as Netflix enters into this marketplace. Traditionally, Netflix had been exclusively premium content, no advertising whatsoever, and I think with them coming, bringing a ton of advertising eyeballs, we're going to see a lot of pressure in that marketplace. I think it's going to be hard for sure, but it's also a good thing for advertisers because you've now got a lot of pressure for them for publishers to deliver exactly what it is that advertisers are looking for. For us as the trade desk, we're in the same boat, right? Which is we're trying to make sense of all the fragmentation, but we're also trying to make sure that we really prioritize the advertiser first.
I think that's an interesting point because there's lots of competition, but that also does mean fragmentation. How are you sort of working to help advertisers navigate that?
Yeah, I think we view the marketplace as a marketplace of eyeballs, and I think we all do, in our sort of most backed out sense, we view it as a marketplace of eyeballs, but we take a much more audience-focused approach, and by using that audience-focused approach, we think that we are probably among the best suited to make sure that an advertiser is able to target their audience wherever that audience happens to be, and that's because we don't own anything in the publishing space. Content production and creation and distribution is an incredibly difficult business. There are people here who eat, sleep, and breathe it at the Beat Retreat this weekend, and they will tell me that I'm way out of my depth even just by talking about it this much. But we believe that when it comes to servicing our advertisers' needs, being agnostic as to where that supply comes from, but being able to target across all of these different channels and across all of these different publishers is the most important thing.
So we talked about fragmentation and competition from sort of the media side and the streaming side. I do also think, though, in times of economic challenge and downturns, that there's pressure on the platform side too. Mm-hmm. What do you think? How do you think that's gonna play out over the next couple of months?
I think there's a lot of initiatives that even before these headwinds sort of faced the industry, there was a lot of initiatives that were starting to try and tackle that. You had a lot in the supply path optimization space, and you had a lot in the marketplace quality space, where essentially you had an entire industry that really wanted to make sure that every dollar, or the most cents out of every dollar, were going towards their intended purpose, which was actioning on media. And I think there's going to continue to be pressure there. But this ecosystem, there's the eyeballs and the advertising dollars. And in between each of those entities, between the eyeball and the advertising dollar, needs to prove out their unique value proposition. Otherwise, that's going to get priced in more so now than ever before. When times are good, everyone's happy to spend money in advertising. But when times are bad, people really take a second look at their balance sheet, and they want to make sure that they're not getting the wool pulled over their eyes.